WW7KC.
Good evening. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society Net. On the 08 machine, I'm Dave, KD7CYM. The Western Washington Amateur Television Society is a group of amateur radio enthusiasts that take to the airways with fast scan television. We have a repeater located up on Cougar Mountain. We transmit on 70 centimeters. It's a crossband repeater and spits out images at 1.2 gigahertz. To find out more about the Western Washington Amateur Television Society, please Google WW7ATS. That's Google WW7ATS. That will take you to our homepage. There you'll find some information about our organization, the exact frequencies we transmit and receive on, and also you'll find a link that will take you to YouTube, where we stream our Nets Health Wednesdays and Saturdays between 8 and 9 o'clock. Also, we'd like to thank the SeaTac Repeater Association for letting us use WW7STR's repeater 147.08 with a specific tone of 103.5 for this net. Again, that's 103.5 for this net. Again, this is Dave, KD7CYM. I'll pause in case anybody has emergency traffic or needs to make a contact on the 08 machine before our net gets fully underway. Hearing none, again, welcome to the Western Washington Amateur Television Society. Checked in by a video link already is Ron, KD7QKU, Lee, N7KC, Bob, K9PQ, Richard, K7ITX, Jim, N7QO, James, WW7N, and myself, Dave, KD7CYM. Well, let's start off the net by going to Ron, KD7QKU in Tacoma.
Dave, thank you very much. Ron, KD7QKU. Well, last night and today was sort of interesting up till now. Yesterday was our anniversary, so Joanne's sister and brother-in-law went with us to a restaurant called Harbor Lights. It's down on the Ruston on the water. So we had a really nice dinner. I had oysters, fried oysters, and Joanne had salmon, and I think Doug had salmon. I don't know what Phyllis had. She was sitting kind of across from me. But anyway, during the meal, we got a text message from my nieces in Bellevue, one of them in Bellevue. So Roger Fyander, who I'm his uncle actually, and he was, my sister was his mother, and his dad was Indian on the Yakima Indian Reservation, and Roger was very active in the reservation all of his life, and they have a big casino over there, and he managed their warehouse that supplied the casino and stuff for years, and then I don't know what else he did. But anyway, when you see him in his gear, he's got a full. He looks like a chief. He rides his horse with full headgear. Chief feathers all the way down his back, buckskins and beads and everything. I mean, pretty fascinating. So does his wife. They both, and they were always high up in the Indian community over there. I don't know if he was actually a chief or not, but very well respected, very nice looking guy, and his wife is very nice looking. And he was in the military, served in Vietnam. So anyway, he passed away, we found out on Saturday. We knew he was sick and in the hospital. We found that out on Sunday, but then he'd already passed away on Saturday. So we were at dinner last night, and my niece sent us a message saying that the funeral services was going to start today. And so I had decided right then and there that we just couldn't make it. I couldn't make it. I didn't want to. I mean, it was just kind of out of the question, I thought. So I thought that was the end of it. Let it drop, I guess. Well, we went over to Doug and Phil's for cake and ice cream. Didn't get home till 10 o'clock. And Joanne and I didn't talk anymore about it. And then let it drop. We get up this morning and we're at breakfast. We're eating about 9 o'clock, and then Joanne decides that we absolutely have to go. And I said, oh my goodness, I mean, if we were going to go, we should have went yesterday and got a motel. We could have taken a leisurely drive. But the ceremony starts really this afternoon at 4 o'clock. And I said, gee, I drank a whole bunch of coffee. I'm going to have to pee. I'm going to have to stop and go to the bathroom. If we leave, we can hardly get there. And so I said, why don't you if you want to go, call my nieces and go with them. So she couldn't get a hold of them. Well, in the beginning of all this, Mike had heard about it, and he had offered to drive us if we wanted to go. And so I said, call Mike. He'll drive you. So she said, I think I'll do that. So she called Mike, and he said, yeah, sure, I'll drive you. So they left here about, 11:30, I suppose, by the time he got here. And they got their clothes changed. And so they got over to Yakima, Topnish, and the Yakima Reservation. So I will let it drop. I'll continue my next round. Okay, back to net, KD7QKU.
KD7QKU, let's go to Lee, N7KC in Port Angeles. again for Lee, N7KC in Port Angeles. No response on Lee, so let's move down to Bob, K9PQ in Bothell.
Okay, let me switch it over here. There we go. I think Lee, maybe he's very delayed or something. I'm not sure. But anyway, well, maybe we can go back to him after me. Well, let's see. I'm actually haven't started preparing just yet, but I'm going to de-winterize the trailer, and I've got my first camping trip of the season is coming up very soon. A friend of mine and I from Gaming in the Woods, we're gonna go up to oh no, it's killing me. It'll come to me. Oh well, never mind. I'll have to come back to it. But we're gonna go out camping here pretty soon, and he's got a camper, and then me with my trailer, and we're just gonna go and do a little hiking, and it's gonna be down at Puget Sound, and we'll just kind of be out seeing the sights. I'll try and remember to get some video. I know I'll take some still pictures, so I'll try and remember to get some video as well to share with you guys. So that's coming up. And not a whole lot very interesting right now, but I will see what's going on with everybody else and pick it up next time around. Back to net, K9PQ.
Let's go back to Lee, N7KC, see if we got a contact.
Yeah, have you got me now? Okay. Yeah, okay, I'm getting an echo now from, oh, wait a minute here. Here we go. I'm getting it from YouTube. All right, something went horribly wrong on the echo link. When Ron said, let it drop, it repeated that about 25 times. And then so forth, and it was really goofy. So I don't know what the story was, except I think at the end I caught that Mike did take Joanne over to Yakima. I don't know. Anyway, it was something went wrong, and then that had something to do with me missing my slot. I was waiting for the button not to be grayed out, and so forth. So there you go. Well, whatever. Lee N7KC in Port Angeles. Good to see you all. And yeah, sorry for the loss of your friend there, Ron. That's awful. And that must have been quite a sight to see him in his regalia, on a horse. That'd be fun. Navy bunks. The way they go on a destroyer anyway, and I was on two different destroyers of about the same vintage. Pre-World War II. There's a footlocker that goes underneath them. There's 3 slots in the footlocker, and then the first bunk is immediately above the footlocker. Then there's a middle one, and then a top one, and the distance between them is the length of your arm with your fingers extended. So you can imagine about how much room you've got. And the top one, you're right in the piping. And all that crap that goes along the top of a ship and the overhead. Anyway, I always like the top one myself. I like to get up there. And then there's a technique to swinging up into that bunk. There's certain things that you can grab there. And of course, we were all very buff back in those days, and you just swing right up there into that bunk without any problem. I never did use the bottom one or a mid one. I always was lucky enough to get a top one. Let's see, that's it for here for now. It's like spring over here. I've been working in the yard, all that sort of stuff, cleaned the roof, sunroom, roof, and all that. So we don't have much snow. See ya. Back to you, Dave. N7KC, Lee at Port Angeles.
N7KC, and we'll get an ID here. Again, this is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. I'm Dave, KD7CYM. Well, let's go to Richard, K7ITX in Kent.
All right. Well, yeah, Ron, sorry to hear about your loss, and my condolences. Sounds like a real cool family, absolutely. And oh, Lee, don't worry, you didn't miss anything, because Ron you heard part one, so part two is the next round, so you didn't miss anything. Good, so you lucked out. And Bob, you made me feel real good that I'm not the only one that has a name on the tip of my tongue. I do that frequently, more than I would like, and you guys have seen me do it a lot. so thanks. I feel pretty good now. And let's see. And then weirdly enough, I don't know if you guys ever heard of Mark Cuban. He's a pretty rich guy, very rich guy. He owns a basketball team and all that jazz. Owns a lot of stuff. But evidently, he's a very, very generous person. To the point where I was staring at a $300 per month specialty drug prescription. So I looked up Mark Cuban Cost Plus. So he showed me the price from the manufacturer. He showed me $5 handling and $5 for shipping. And all of a sudden, that $300 is actually $84. So I thought, whoa! And then that is more than covered by my donation from the foundation that gives me $179 a month. So it's more than a wash. It's actually a positive. So I was pretty excited. I see my doctor tomorrow, and I don't think. I think they know all about him. He only deals with generics. So before, when I had a very, very expensive specialty drug, it wasn't generic, and so it wasn't on his list. So anyway, I find that very, very interesting. And if I actually do get the drug at that price, my hat's off to him anyway. So what a nice man to finance prescription, basically cost plus with no profit. So, we just had my birthday and Valentine's Day in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I can't remember where I got, if this was a birthday present or a Valentine's Day present, but it's these remote control lights, LEDs. Here, I'll just show them to you. They're pretty cool. It's just really nice, like if you're, especially in this room right here, the ham shack, because I have a lot of entertainment business in here besides the ham radio, and so if I start to doze off, the lighting is kind of a little too bright to be comfortable, so I just turn on these LEDs, and then as I'm really wanting to, pass out, then I can just flip them off without getting up. So how do you like that, gang? So anyway, that's about all I know right now. I have, and as far as Iceland goes, I'm sure it's ready to blow again any second. But I guess the big argument right now is the fishermen want to be in Grindavik all the time. That's their livelihood, and they're not too excited about the government getting in their way and, having all these restrictions. So, anyway, and I'm looking forward to I'll take some pictures of some of the artwork. We have original oils of the landscape in Iceland, and even a watercolor too that we've Debbie got when she lived there and visited there, and it's pretty interesting considering what's been going on over there. It kind of gives you an idea how the Icelanders feel about their countryside. So anyway, that's all I know. K7ITX, back to net control.
ITX. Let's go to Covington to Jim in 7QO.
In 7QO, thank you, Dave. Good evening, everyone. Well, I see Sparky there. Ron, happy anniversary, belated. And my condolences on your nephew there. Glad you were able to make that anyway. Let's see, Lee, sounds like you didn't get much snow up there. I don't know if it got any better in the mountains. I don't know if your water situation has been improved any or not, but it's not quite over yet. We've got another storm coming. I think it's supposed to show up Sunday. Bob, getting the trailer ready for camping season. Yeah, I think we might still have a couple of days where it goes below freezing, so be a little bit cautious on that, but hopefully the majority of winter is behind us. Dick, Mark Cuban, yeah, Cost Plus. I saw him in some television interview, and he was explaining a little bit about that. He said that what he has been able to do essentially is buy some of these products directly from the manufacturer, and he is distributing them. So what he has done essentially is cut out the middleman, and it turns out that's where a whole lot of the markup is coming from. So I think that's a great idea, and he was saying he hopes to be able to expand that in the future, but he's working on that anyway. Also, Dick, those remote control LED lights look pretty cool. I don't know, it seems to me all you need is the clapper. I had one of those a long time ago, and it works great. It makes a little noise, but it's okay. You're awake when you make the noise. So, and they actually have a higher end model of that. I never had the high end model, but like you clap it twice for on or off, but you could control a second item, and I think it has where you clap 3 times and it'll turn the other item on or off. I never had that, but yeah, that sounds cool for setting the mood if you want to take a nap or whatever. One to turn the lights down and one to turn on the music or something. I don't know. Anyway, those lights look pretty cool, and they're pretty good if you have a power failure as well. So that's hard to beat. Back to you, Dave, N7QO.
WW7QON. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society Net. On the 08 machine, I'm Dave, KD7CYM. Well, let's go to James, WU7N.
Thank you, Dave. WU7N in northeast of Bellevue tonight. Jim, those are interesting thoughts. I personally would never use the word clap or anything close to it when I'm trying to set a mood with lights and romantic stuff. But it's just me. I don't know why. I'm just like that. Let's see. Oh, wow. Lee, you got a whole 2 feet. A whole 2 feet before your head banged into the pipes. That sounds like kind of a cruise vessel to me. I was on a little tiny patrol boat for a brief period of time. I don't think there was that much room there. Oh yeah, Ron, condolences. Sorry to hear about your nephew there. That was sad. Let's see. Oh, and Richard, however you did it, it's a good job on the prescription. However you get it today, that's good. And the lights look very cool. I have a little box here that was sent to me by a hardworking person in China. And you can see that there, and it's a TC1 tester. And you say, well, what does it test? All kinds of stuff. Here's with a zero force insertion socket. There it is. It just tested a little LED, and it tells you what the forward voltage drop is. Really don't get very good resolution on that, do you? But it was like something like $20, and I have little plastic drawers filled with parts. Much to my surprise, 30 years ago, I must have taken them into the lab one night or something and tested them all, because a lot of them are marked much better than I remember them being marked. But I put them in this tester, and it's very good about identifying what it is. Whether it's a FET or a bipolar transistor, or it'll even it does not a bad job of even differentiating between a Zener diode and a regular diode. So it's for $20, and they even include in the little baggie of goodies that come with it. The nice man in China included a little bag, because he knows you just mainly want to play with it, right? I mean, are you going to really use this to test out the transistors that go in the nuclear firing mechanism? No, you're not. You're going to play with it, get your $20 for it. It'll sit on the shelf, and you'll probably never touch it again. I don't know if I can get this to work on the screen, so I'll just have to kind of show you the results. But here's a remote control, and I think you push the button and then you aim the remote control. Okay, and I'll see, but it'll decode the remote control button for you. It was on top of me, I think, there. But so I said, you push the button on the remote control, and you push the test button, and it sends you a little decoded kind of a little graph there of the... let's see if this works out any better. Beeps and squawks here in North Bellevue, pumping quite a bit of power out for something that's 10 clicks away. Anyway, I was saying what it does. It's a very fun toy, and you can put all sorts of different components in there, even ones you don't really know about, and it'll try and figure out what it is. And I just randomly put some stuff in there to see could it figure it out. The only thing I had a little bit of trouble with some of my Zener diodes. Could be fried. They may not be totally functional, but it had some problems with some of the Zener diodes, trying to figure out what those were. There was one thing, too, I wanted to share with everybody. It's safety first, and I thought you guys really need to get on this. We'll see if it comes through or not. But this is I know what you're all thinking right now. You're thinking, my cat would never create a problem here like this. But, they're curious, and the next thing you know, they figured out the combination to the safe, and then they're playing around with it, and, next thing you know, you could have an accident. So I decided to tell you about this book here, How to Talk to Your Cat About Gun Safety. I'm sure it's available on Amazon. You guys with cats really should get that and figure out, where to go from here with this.
I don't know if there's enough resolution to see it, but someone put just way too much work into that cover. So this is it for me from James, WW7N in Northeast Bellevue. Let me turn it back to our net control Dave, and let me just ask, how is the audio now? I mean, I'm just pumping a ridiculous amount of power into a 3-element beam to an antenna that's like 9 kilometers away from me, line of sight. So hopefully it's coming through.
Good, James. This is Dave, KD7ZYM, and this is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net. And let's see, I've got 46 degrees and it's raining. Boy, about 20 minutes ago it was a golly washer here in Lake City. It really opened up and came down, crumbling pretty good. And Ron, condolences to family members there that have passed. Oh my gosh. And Lee, boy, I guess you didn't have a cruise ship when you were in the Navy as far as housing commodities going. I had a buddy that was a dentist in the Navy. He had his own stateroom. Of course, he was an officer, but he always thought it was pretty good. At his stateroom, they had a nice lounge that he could hang out with the other officers, and the food was, he said, was always superior. And Bob, camping, oh, I think you'll have fun doing that. And Richard, Mark Cuban and drugs. Anyway, it sounds like a pretty good deal that you can get through him. What a neat thing to do. So that's what's happening. And Jim, looking forward to a storm coming Sunday. And James, I locked the cat and guns, but I was on YouTube and they were showing a cat was looking on an iPad, and the cat could take his paw and he would bring up the videos that he wanted to watch, or her. I don't know what the sex was on the cat, or if they were pulling her leg or not, but it made for conversation with the cat picking his own video out. So that's about what was happening there. Got outside today for a little exposure in the rain, did some shopping, I might say. Did that and got that out of the way. So that's been pretty laid back today. I've been having some sniffles and I've taken some antihistamines. Boy, whatever one has got, it's got my name on it. It's called Sleepy. And boy, I'll lay down, I'll start watching television or something, and the next thing I know, a half hour has gone by and I'm waking up thirsty. So, but the sniffles have gone away. It has worked with that. Well, let's move up to the top to Ron, KD7QKU.
KD7QKU again. Well, I don't know if you guys can see this. If I can. So, there's Roger. He's on his white horse. In his headdress, the feathers go all the way down to the horse. And I don't know if exactly where they were. But anyway, I'll go over here to this other camera. I just dropped the mic here, I'm sorry. So Joanne's goal was to be there at 4 o'clock. And at 1 o'clock, they were going to go, the Indians were going to go, and his family were going to go to the funeral home and have a dressing ceremony. I'm not sure what that is. I don't know whether they're going to put his Indian clothes on him. And they were going to transport him from the funeral home out to the community center, or whatever they call it. And that was, then that ceremony was going to start at 4 o'clock, and it was called a, I think it was called a WASHUT. And first they were going to have, they're Catholic, so they were going to have a mass. And then after the mass, they were going to start this ceremony. And it runs almost all night. I don't know exactly what all they do, but I would imagine most of them are dressed up in their Indian feathers and stuff. They'll be playing drums and dancing and talking, and Anyway, at midnight they have a big dinner, and then in the morning at 7 o'clock they have a 7-drum ceremony, they call it. Then they have another Catholic service, and then they go to the cemetery and they bury him, and then they return to the community center, and they have well, I'd have to go find it. I have it, but anyway, I forget what it's called. Some kind of a service, and then they call it a crying service, and then a giving service, and then another meal, I think. And so I've never gone to their services. My brother hasn't, and he came home with a beautiful vest. So I think they give things away. I mean, they may even give guns and everything else away. They may give the possessions of the dead person away. I don't know. But they call it a giving ceremony, whatever that means. And then, like I say, tonight at midnight, they're supposed to have this big traditional Indian dinner or something. And then, like I say, they have a bunch of ceremonies tomorrow. I told Joanne she was only planning on going to get there at 4, and I think she was only planning on staying a couple hours. But I said, you better take stuff so you can stay all night. I don't think Mike brought anything to stay all night. Who knows? But I figured that if they get there, you know, they can't leave, so to say. So my brother said, man, he went to something like that. It may have been the same thing for maybe his father. And my brother said, oh man, what a ceremony. You know, they play drums and they sing, you know, chant, sing, whatever you call it. So I don't know, but I'm sure they're in for quite a spectacle. So whether they'll be there all night or not, I don't know. So that's about it over here in Bellevue. And that Mark Cuban, he's on the Shark Tank. That's where I know him from. I've seen him on the Shark Tank, and I think he sold most of his interest in was it the basketball team he had? I think I heard he sold most of his interest. And so anyway, I better quit before I time it out. Back to net, KD7QKU.
QKU, let's go to Lee in 7KC in Port Angeles.
Very good. N7KC, Lee in Port Angeles. Well, very good. Well, Ron, you missed quite a show. I was just thinking, I don't know why, but I thought it was the Plains Indians, you know, that had all the headgear that went down like that. I didn't realize that the tribes in the Northwest did that. And you might mention, if you get around again, is that was part of the Yakima Nation? Something like that? Yeah, Ron is saying yes. He said yeah. Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah. Now, getting back to the Navy bunks, I don't think it was 2 feet. I'd say more like 20 inches. I don't know. You could just do it, right? You could just do it. Slide in there and sort of, you could lay on your side, but that was about it. But I always slept just fine. You know, I never had any issues or anything like that. You don't have real springs. The canvas is kind of held in the frame with springs that go around the side of it, but they're really, really stiff. So it's not like it's super comfy. And then there's just a very thin mattress that lays on top of that. And it is in a sack. You have the mattress cover is just like a bag. You slide it in and so forth. Yeah, 4 years of that. I never really thought much about it, though. It was okay. I don't really have anything else. I'll just send her back today. This is N7KC, Lee in Port Angeles. Go ahead, Dave.
7KC, let's go to Camper Bob, K9PQ.
Hey,
Well, thank you, Google Maps. Deception Pass is where I'm going. It's weird. The only thing that came to mind was Hurricane Ridge. I knew that wasn't right. So, but anyway, that's where I'll be heading out camping. And yeah, I agree, Jim. It's a bit early in the year, and that's the one concern with my trailer. I mean, I'm set up to camp in freezing weather, but my trailer is not. If I decide I want to use the plumbing that comes with it, I'll wait and see as we get close. Right now it's all been drained for the winter, and if it looks like we're going to have some freezing weather, I just may not fill it, and I may just be stuck using the camp facilities like everyone else. But it'll be fun. It'll be nice to get out and just get camping again. It's been too long. That is interesting, Ron, with the headdress, and the picture you showed was really interesting. And I wonder if the Yakima tribe consider themselves more plains. They're certainly not like coastal, so maybe they sort of identify more with that kind of Indian tradition. But I don't know. American Indian traditions and practices are. I'm unfortunately really quite ignorant on that, so I couldn't say. A friend of mine served on a fast attack submarine, nuclear submarine, for several years, a few years, and he was talking about they did hot bunking there, where they actually, you didn't have your own bunk. Somebody that was on a different shift than you was sleeping in your bunk when you weren't there, so you had a very tiny space because your space for your personal things were under your bunk, but you were sharing it with like 2 or 3 people, so you had a very, very limited space for any kind of special things that you wanted to take with you, personal items. Let me break. Yeah, James, that is a cool tester, especially that it sort of is auto-detecting, it sounds like. That is pretty cool, and I get what you're saying about, you buy it, you play around with it a little bit, and then it goes away, but you know what? It's always there if you need it. That's the important point. You may never need it, probably will never need it, but it's there, just in case you do need it. What else do I have? And that's hilarious with the cat and the gun safety. It's one thing to teach cats gun safety, but it's another thing to get them to actually care about gun safety, and, I don't know how you get any cat to do that. So, all right, send it back to Ned, K9PQ.
K9PQ, and it's time for another ID. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. I'm Dave, KD7ZYM. Let's go to Richard, K7ITX.
Yeah, I don't know about gun safety for Mika. As far as Mika is concerned, if there's anything on your table, it shouldn't be there. So if you ever need your table cleared off, just ask me to bring Mika over. She'll get on your table and she'll proceed to knock everything off your table. I mean, whether it's papers or pens or cups. It's just, she's pretty gentle about it, just a little tap, 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 oh, and there it goes over the edge. Okay, what is the next item, and just steadily. So it's not unusual for me to wake up in the middle of the night when she's on my bench, and I go, oh my God, what's she doing now? What do I have? What do I got to clean up, or what's on the floor that shouldn't be? So, yeah, that's pretty funny, James. The gun safety. I don't know about Mika for that though. And Ron, God, what a beautiful, beautiful picture. Thanks for showing us that. Wonderful ceremony to go to. I mean, I'd go for the whole 9 yards, just like Lee was talking about. That'd be kind of a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Probably the closest thing I ever came to that was at the Seattle World's Fair. There was a pretty cool Indian exhibit, and I remember staying there for hours and dancing with them around their fire, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful culture. Anytime anyone brings up the Yakima Nation, I have to give a little bit of my history that I'm aware of that I never knew before until reading a book on the history of Washington State. And I think we have the Yakima Nation to thank for, like for example, the Emerald Queen Casino or the Nisqually Indian Reservation. Because my understanding is when the first treaty with the local tribes here in western Washington, particularly the Nisqually and the Puyallups, when they made an agreement with the first governor of Washington State, I think it's Stevenson or something like that, he signed his name to this treaty, but had no interest in following through. And so that disturbed a lot of the tribes, in particular the Yakima Nation, which I guess at the time they were several thousand, maybe 10,000 or more strong compared to the maybe 500 to 1,000 settlers in the Washington area. And when they heard about this broken treaty, they said, well, okay, if that's how you're going to be, I guess we're going to have to come over. I guess at that time it would have been Chinook Pass or Cayuse Pass, somewhere around those parts. And the idea of the Yakima Nation declaring war on the state of Washington didn't appeal to anybody, and so they ended up in proceeding, made quite a few concessions to the Puyallups and the Nisquallies, and I think that whole history of Washington is here for us to see with our own eyes as we drive on I-5 through the Tacoma area now. So, good for the Yakima tribe, or the Yakima Nation, is I think it's probably the best way of putting it. I think the Nez Perce of southeast Washington, and it'd be northeast Oregon and parts of Idaho, the Hells Canyon area. Nez Perce, well, and up through Tri-Cities, I suspect. They were the last holdouts against the United States government, as far as I remember reading, to the point where they just gave our army fits, and now they did finally had to concede, but it took a long time, and I think it was just probably around 1890-ish, 1880, late 1880s, when they finally won. The United States government finally won out on I believe the Nez Perce were the last. They were pretty helpful, actually. With Lewis and Clark and people like that, they were always pretty kind until we weren't very kind to them. And, those sorts of things have a way of disturbing you might as well stir up an anthill. That's all you need to do. So, that's ants, humans, we all get mad when we get kicked around. So, anyway, very interesting, and thank you very much, Ron, and I hope Joanne is just having a blast, really, and your son as well. K7ITX, back to net control.
ITX, thanks for that. Let's go on to Jim, N7QO.
N7QO. Thank you, Mr. Repeater, and thank you, Dave. Well, Jim, yeah, that tester looks pretty cool, and I have to go along with Bob. If the price is right, you may as well have stuff like that just hanging around. I certainly used to do a whole lot of more stuff, experimenting and building things and all that, a whole lot more than I do now, at least in recent years. I still want to, but I don't know, somehow life has just gotten complicated. I don't know, I don't get it. And that book, How to Teach Your Cat About Gun Safety, yeah, that's funny. Well, people write stuff like that. You know, everyone needs a hobby, and some people maybe enjoy writing about that. I don't know, I'm looking at a picture of Sparky right now. But yeah, how do you make them care? Yeah, that was funny too, Bob. Anyway, thanks for that, Jim. Dave, mentioning precipitation, yeah, when I came out to the shack, it's drizzling over here as well. It's calm wind, and I've got 47 degrees here. It's been raining most all of the day here. Sometimes moderate rain, sometimes only light rain, but I only remember maybe about a 2-hour period during the middle of the day where it was not raining. And let's see, antihistamine working but making you drowsy. And yeah, you definitely do need to consume extra liquids when you're taking that stuff. At least it's effective, that's good. Ron, thanks for the picture. That's impressive. An all-night long ceremony. I don't know if I could do that anymore. Maybe I could 5 years ago, but not anymore. I'd fall asleep sometime during the middle of the night, I'm sure. Lee, mentioning the bunks. Just curious, is that bringing back fond memories, or is that instilling nightmares that you're thinking about the bunks? That's interesting. I've seen on television pictures of bunks in various seagoing vessels, and none of them looked all that impressive for the enlisted crew, anyway. Let's see, Bob, Deception Pass, yeah. You know, thinking about that, even if you didn't have water in the thing, it would have to be a whole lot more comfortable in your trailer, even without water. But then I don't know for sure if your trailer has heat in it or not. That would be another plus if you could do that. But it would have to be more comfortable, especially if it rains or snows on you. So by all means, just watch out so that it doesn't freeze and break some of the probably plastic piping. Dick, yeah, casinos. The casinos have certainly done a whole lot to help the tribes. That's got to be a big plus. So that's good. And they've gotten some pretty good casinos in use out there, so helps everyone. Back to you, Dave, N7QO.
Yeah, time for another ID. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society Net on the 08 machine. I'm Dave, KD7CYM. Let's go to James, WW7N.
Yeah, I want to do a test here. How's my signal right now? How's it coming through? Right now, how's it coming through? Still coming through okay. Okay, we seem to have had a little anomaly there earlier on because I'm back down to a much lower power than I was before. Well, anyway, yeah, Chief Joseph of the Nez Perce, I read about him as a kid. He's a very interesting character because even American officials at the time
were trying to prevent or trying to present Chief Joseph's case, not because they were such wonderful, nice people, but because they were just going, there's tons of these people. There's way more of them than there are of us. And I think this was after the unfortunate interpersonal relationship exercise at the Little Bighorn with General Custer. And so they were trying to say, well, we need to work with these people and, not fight with them. Fortunately, this was not the dominant theme of America as it, expanded coast to coast. But the Canadians were rather concerned about it. This is why British Columbia became a province so early on in the history of Canada. And so Chief Joseph, when he realized he was probably just, he was a very good military tactician, and he realized, though, he needed to get out, the Canadians said, if you get on our side of the border, we're going to ignore you, but we don't want the American cavalry coming after you. And he got, I think, within 3 miles or something of the border before they caught up with him. So it's really an interesting story because he also was quite a diplomat. He was trying to make a deal. It's kind of like, Ukraine and Russia today. Well, you're already here, but let's make a deal and talk about the real estate values or whatever, So it's just a very fascinating story for me. I've seen one commentary, rather extensive essay, that the Indians of the Northwest are a little different than the Indians of the Midwest, and that one person postulates that if they'd had another couple hundred years, they would not have been pushovers at all for the American Empire, because they had already come up with this concept that, wait a minute, rather than pillage each other's villages and steal each other's women and rape each other and all that stuff, why don't we deal with each other? Like, you got fish, I got hides, let's deal. And that usually, when you get large groups of tribal people doing that, that's usually your pathway to civilization. There's about 6 things that you need to get going there, and they were on their way to getting several of them going. So, but they didn't have enough time to really put it all together. Also, there were a couple of other things. Their lack of resistance to certain diseases, like they didn't have a lot of domesticated animals that were very common in the old world, that had given old world people a lot of resistance, except Bob, who's coughing right now, to diseases. They didn't have that. So there were some other things that would have taken time, but they already had horses, which is an important domesticated animal, and they were also, some places had things like chickens. So that's, you're into the big 6 for domesticated animals. So they were really close. 4 minutes, so I've rambled on enough here. I put an interesting little piece of irony over in the meeting chat there, if anybody wants to read it. Let me turn this back over to Dave, our net control for the Western Washington Amateur Television Society.
WW7ATS, thanks for that. This is Dave, KD7ZYM in Lake City. Oh my, I had a colleague that I worked with in television who was married to a Native American, and unfortunately she passed away. And he had to provide, according to the Nez Perce tradition, he and his 2 sons had to provide dinner for 200 people. It was the tradition of the family that passes on has to do that in Montana, and so he is off and went off to do that. He was also a mountain man, was his hobby, and so he had a full-blown teepee and poles and a trailer that he hauled all that stuff around. He was very traditional and paying homage to the Indian life, so that was pretty interesting. And that's about all I've got to say with that. So this is Dave, KD7ZYM, and we got time to go up to Ron, KD7QKU.
KD7QKU again. Well, I guess I got started on this Indian thing, and I'm going to talk all night. But so they have the Legends Casino. The Yakima Nation has a Legends Casino. It's on Highway 97. So there's 2 roads that come out of Yakima that go south, towards Kennewick and that area down there, across Bend City and then on down into Kennewick. One goes on one side of the Yakima River and one goes on the other. 97 goes on the south side of the river. 82, I think, goes on the north side of the river. 82 is the newest road, but the older road is the 97. And let's see, so my father worked for the federal government in Indian affairs, and mostly had to do with police. And he traveled, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana for quite a while. That's kind of how I guess we got associated with Indian. I told you the story, I'm sure, that when I was in maybe the 7th or 8th grade, we were studying Washington history, and my teacher said that she was a princess in the Nez Perce, and she wore her leather, Indian dress with the fringe and all the beads and everything on it. So I came home, I told my dad that story, and he said, "Oh, I know her father really well," and so he sent a note back to school, envelope with a note in it, and he was inviting her for dinner. So she came to our house and had dinner, and he told, he probably, I don't know if he knew her when she was a little child or not. My father was really old. He was a United States Marshal, I think, before Washington was a state. And he could tell you everything about the Washington state for sure. He ended up his career, in, he called it Big Pasco. Over at Pasco, they had a prisoner of war camp, and they had Italians over there. They had about, 5,000, 10,000 Italian prisoners over there, and he was sergeant of the guards over there for a long time. That's where he retired from. So anyway, that's how we got. And my older sister married a, Indian on the Yakima Reservation when they were out there. So anyway, and she later divorced him, and they had this one boy, Roger. He was a year older than I am, so Roger's about 85, and I'll be 84 in September. So I'm the last one of my family now, so, the circle goes around, and I'm the one now, so when I'm gone, somebody else takes the honor. So anyway, it was 53 years for us, so we celebrated our 53rd anniversary, wedding anniversary. So we've been married for quite a while. So anyway, I guess that's it. I don't know much more. So back to net, KD7QKU.
QKU, and I guess that pretty well wraps up the net for this evening. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. We'd like to thank the SeaTac Repeater Association for letting us use WW7STR's repeater 14708 for our voice transmissions for our nets. On behalf of the Western Washington Amateur Television Society, this is Dave, KD7CYM, terminating the net at 9 o'clock. Good evening all.